There is a quiet moment most people never notice. It's the day you stop being uncomfortable, not because life became easier, but because you stopped pushing back. You wake up, do what's familiar, repeat what feels safe, and tell yourself this is balance. But balance, when it lasts too long, slowly turns into decay. Comfort doesn't arrive loudly. It slips in gently, through skipped workouts, delayed decisions, unfinished goals, and promises you make excuses for. Nothing collapses at once. That's why it's dangerous. The day you became comfortable wasn't a day you failed. It was the day you stopped resisting. Discipline doesn't disappear in dramatic moments. It fades in ordinary ones. When no one is watching, when nothing feels urgent, when the cost of delay seems small. And that's how people lose years without realizing it. Not by making terrible choices, but by making comfortable ones. Quiet discipline is not about intensity. It's about awareness, about noticing when ease replaces effort, when routine replaces intention, when you stop demanding more from yourself because life feels good enough. This is not a warning. It's a mirror, because the moment you became comfortable was the moment you quietly started losing ground. Comfort changes how you measure time. Days stop feeling important. Weeks blur together. Years pass without weight. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You simply stopped placing pressure where it once mattered. At some point, you replaced standards with explanations. I'm busy. I've earned rest. I'll fix it later. And later became never. Quietly, your tolerance for discomfort shrank. What once felt normal now feels like effort. What once required discipline now requires motivation. And motivation is unreliable. This is how people drift from who they were meant to become. Not by quitting outright, but by softening the rules they once lived by. The danger of comfort is not that it feels good. It's that it asks for nothing in return. Discipline, on the other hand, always asks something of you. Attention, consistency, restraint. And that's why most people avoid it. Not because it's hard, but because it refuses to flatter you. Quiet discipline does not shame comfort. It questions how long you've been living there. Because comfort is meant to be visited, not inhabited. Rest is meant to restore you, not replace your edge. If you feel unsettled listening to this, that's not guilt. That's memory. A reminder of the standard you once held. The version of you that didn't wait to feel ready. The version that moved before comfort gave permission. And that version hasn't disappeared. It's only been quiet. The real damage is never visible at first. There is no collapse, no alarm, no moment where life clearly says, this is where you went wrong. Instead, discipline erodes quietly. It happens when effort becomes optional instead of expected, when standards adjust themselves to your mood, when you begin asking how you feel before asking what needs to be done. Most people don't abandon discipline. They renegotiate it. They promise themselves they'll return tomorrow. They soften deadlines. They lower the bar just enough to step over it without resistance. And every time that happens, something subtle changes inside. Your word to yourself loses weight. Your internal authority weakens. Quiet discipline is built on one fragile foundation: self-trust. Not confidence, not motivation, trust. The trust that when you decide something matters, you will act accordingly, even when it's inconvenient, boring, or unseen. Comfort slowly dissolves that trust. It teaches you that consistency is conditional. That effort depends on energy. That discipline should wait until conditions improve. But conditions rarely improve on their own. This is why so many capable people feel stuck. They haven't lost ability. They've lost command. They no longer give themselves clear orders. They negotiate, delay, rationalize, and call it patience. Quiet discipline restores one thing above all else: clarity. It removes discussion. It removes drama. It replaces emotion with direction. Because discipline is not a feeling, it's a position. And the moment you stop negotiating with yourself, you stop losing ground. No one is watching when you make the small choices. That's why they matter most. There is no audience when you skip the habit you promised to protect. No applause when you choose the easier option. No consequences, at least not immediately. And that is exactly where discipline is decided. Most people believe pressure creates character. It doesn't. Pressure only reveals what you've already practiced in private. When no one is watching, comfort feels harmless. There's no risk, no reputation at stake, no one to disappoint. So you let things slide, just this once. But discipline is not built in moments of visibility. It's built in moments of silence. Quiet discipline means holding yourself to a standard even when there is no reward for doing so. No recognition, no validation, no urgency. Just a choice. This is why many people look strong in public but fragile in private. They perform well under observation, but unravel when structure disappears. Because they train for approval, not for integrity. Integrity is what remains when the rules are internal, when the schedule is self-imposed, when the work is done because it was decided, not because it was demanded. Comfort thrives in secrecy. Discipline thrives in solitude. And the difference between the two is not motivation, it's command. The ability to give yourself clear, non-negotiable instructions and follow them without argument. That is quiet discipline. Not loud, not impressive, but reliable. And reliability, practiced daily when no one is watching, is what keeps you from quietly losing everything that once mattered. Negotiation is the last refuge of a weakened standard. You don't negotiate with what you truly respect. You don't bargain with gravity. You don't debate whether consequences apply today. Yet with yourself, negotiation feels reasonable, comfortable, even intelligent. You ask how you feel. You consider circumstances. You wait for the right moment. And in doing so, you quietly hand authority away. Quiet discipline begins the moment discussion ends. Not forcefully, not emotionally, simply decisively. The strongest people are not the ones who feel certain. They are the ones who act without requiring certainty. They don't wait to feel motivated. They don't wait for clarity to arrive. They move because the decision was already made. Negotiation creates delay. Delay creates distance, and distance makes discipline feel foreign. This is why rules must be simple, few, clear, non-negotiable. Not because you lack freedom, but because too many options dilute command. Every time you renegotiate with yourself, you weaken the signal. You teach your mind that instructions are optional, that commitment is conditional. Quiet discipline restores order by removing choice at the moment of action. There is no debate. There is no drama, only execution. This is not rigidity, it's respect. Respect for your own word, for the standards you set when you were thinking clearly, for the future version of yourself that depends on today's obedience. Stop negotiating, not to be harsh, but to be honest. Because discipline does not respond to conversation, it responds to command. This is where quiet discipline settles in. Not as a burst of change, not as a promise to become someone new, but as a return to standards you already knew, to boundaries you once respected, to the version of yourself that didn't ask permission to do what needed to be done. You don't need a dramatic reset. You don't need to punish yourself for lost time. You don't need to feel inspired. You only need to stop drifting. Discipline does not begin tomorrow. It begins the moment you stop explaining and start deciding. One decision, repeated quietly, without witnesses. The work you do today may feel small, unremarkable, invisible. That's how you know it counts. Because the most important work is never celebrated in the moment. It compounds silently. It shapes identity before it shows results. Comfort will always offer you an easier story, a softer pace, a reason to wait. Quiet discipline offers something different. Self-respect. Not the loud kind, the steady kind. The kind that comes from knowing you did what you said you would do, especially when no one was watching. If this message feels heavy, let it be. Weight builds strength. Sit with it for a moment. No reaction, no resolution, just awareness. Because the day you stopped negotiating with yourself is the day you stopped losing.